debt, this destruction.
Global news impacts us.
We have to change the way we live. This is why we need independent media.
Hey everyone, this is Kit Cabello with Hard Lens Media. I am proud to announce that we are doing some fantastic work. Shout out to our tech priest in this year, FaZe, who has not only updated what we're working with visually on the board with the Emperor's Gold, but also we are also live streaming on Rockfin. So for those of you who don't like YouTube, well, you can still check out Hard Lens Media. We're now live streaming here on our YouTube channel. We're also now live streaming on our Rockfin channel.
It's a beta
as well.
at this point, but we're doing it today.
Yes. So again, this is really good stuff for us because we've been hearing from a lot of you guys, our viewers, our subscribers, our fellow colleagues in independent media saying, hey guys, why don't you also live stream on Rockfin and a few other platforms? So we're going to do that. Look, the threat of censorship from YouTube is very real, and we are doing everything we can to make sure that our channel still remains afloat. So the thing is, you'll be able to see our live stream show on Rockfin, and if you want to go over there, help us out over there on Rockfin, that would be really super awesome. And we know that a lot of people have also been asking us about Odyssey. Odyssey is still working under live stream capability. Once that is set up, we will also be live streaming also on Odyssey as well. And I want to just explain everything just so everyone understands. Our Odyssey channel is basically our backup for our main YouTube channel. So in case we are Thanos snapped out of existence, Odyssey has all of our older content and all of our newer content there. Again, there's a lot of potential with Odyssey. Daniel has been having some really great conversations with the people at Odyssey. He's been telling me about it. I can't say too much about it, folks, because it's all hush-hush, but it's some really good stuff that's happening. Our Rockfin channel, our clips won't go there, but the live stream show will be there. But I'll be uploading unique individual content on our Rockfin channel because we want our Rockfin channel to be different than our main YouTube channel, because when you subscribe to us, we want to make sure that you get different content. Also, check out our YouTube channel, Chicago Corner, as well as our fun channel, Chicago Reacts. Join our Discord, follow us on Twitter, and if you want to help us out, please consider being a Patreon supporter as well. All those links, as well as the show notes for today's show, are in the description box below. And I want to give a shout out to Daniel Lupker for being an awesome co-host. Sorry I wasn't here yesterday. I had to take care of a lot of personal responsibilities, but nonetheless, again, I want to take a huge shout out to these people here who operate Hard Lens Media for 18 minutes a month. E.T. Viglis, Richard Brathwaite, Thomas Nelson, Matt Townsend, Trot313, Renaque, Eb Crash, Jeff, John Serdula, Jose Manuel Anzalma Jr., Judas Ferris, Larry Larson, Sandy Brian, Deep Dish Pizza Enthusiast, my man, Edward Heller, also known as E. Heller. He might know Bacon for President. I don't know.
They have some relation, I've heard.
I think so. Bagamish, Kandagula, Jude Incognito, and Noise. You are honorary Patreon supporters. So all our new Patreon supporters, you will be on this list next month because Daniel will be updating it. Hopefully this time it won't be large font like this.
Maybe I'll make it bigger. You don't know. It might happen. Yes. Also, for people that are on Rockfin, we're sort of working out exactly how the communications with that works. So if for whatever reason we're not seeing anything that you're saying on Rockfin or a tip, we're still working on how to run all this.
Yes, give us some time, folks.
Come on to the YouTube side. Let one of the mods know if you can't get through to us. We will make sure it works.
Yes. So again, we're really happy that we're doing this. FaZe has been really working his butt off to make sure that we're able to do this. And again, with Rockfin and Odyssey, my personal opinion, I think there's a lot of potential with them as growing platforms. But, you know, I mean, people are tired of YouTube censoring people.
We're working as hard as we can with what we have, and I think we're doing okay.
Yep. So, again, shout out to everyone that's joining us for our Friday show. We also have a Patreon show at the end of this episode as well. Be sure to check us out for that one. And, again, for Rockfin, if you do message us, we will try and get to it. Give us time. This is all kind of brand new to us. But with that being said,
consider this the pizza beta.
Yes, this is the pizza beta. Oh, and a shout out to Earl Nystrom. We actually now can see it. Hard Lens in the Rockfin house, $2. Thank you so much for tipping us a $2 tip. We do appreciate it on the Rockfin platform. Again, it's some good stuff.
We're going to be working out over the next couple of weeks how to really optimize this for the best experience for everyone.
Yes, and thank you, Miguel H., for letting us know. But now, hold on. We do got a show to get started, so unless you have any other announcements, Daniel?
Well, a long time ago.
All right. You're done. All right. So with that being said, have a drink, folks. We're going to start with our first story. So, wait. Actually, hold on. Before we actually get started with this first story, there's two things I wanted to make an announcement for. Number one, the Evergreen ship is still stuck. And then number two, I know a lot of people have been talking about Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and her shocking, eye-opening interview with DSA and about privilege and a few other things. I will be giving a commentary on it. I'll be doing my own perspective on our Rockfin channel. I'll be uploading it because I do want to acknowledge some whistleblowers that I don't think Representative AOC has been talking about because again of the YouTube censorship. You got to be careful, but I am well aware, and I will be. And again, be sure to check it out. It'll be available for the public, and I'm really kind of shocked by the hubris. Daniel, do you have any quick comments about that?
Yeah, Kit showed me that article. Yeah, go make sure to watch on Rockfin his take on it. It's very. It's exactly what we see from regular politicians. She now has a friendly media outlet where she can friendly go. The person who asked her questions was a Democratic operative, is a Democratic operative, and she can, well, you'll hear his take later.
Yeah, exactly. But now, with that being said, let's get started with our first segment. All right. So, Joe Biden actually had a press conference. A press conference to end all press conferences. I really have to question the motives behind it or the mentality behind it of who is really guiding Biden. And, so a comment just threw me off here as well, but I don't know.
You know who you are.
Yes, they do know who they are. But the whole thing was Biden having that press conference. The press didn't challenge him. No one really asked any questions about what's happening in Flint, Michigan, or how we're going to be ending the wars in Afghanistan or Iraq or the genocide in Yemen. We're not addressing the fact that the American people did not get their $2,000 stimulus checks, or we're not getting a $15 minimum wage increase. The press just basically gave Biden some softball questions. And again, he didn't really have any strong statements to make. He was struggling. If you don't know what I'm talking about, well, we got some clips to share with you. Let's play this first video.
I believe we should go back to a position of filibuster that existed just when I came to the United States Senate 120 years ago. And that is that it used to be required for the filibuster, and I had a card on this. I was going to give you the statistics, but you probably know them. That it used to be that from between 1917 and 1971, the filibuster existed. There were a total of 58 motions to break a filibuster that whole time. Last year alone, there were 5 times that many. So it's being abused in a gigantic way. And for example, it used to be you had to stand there and talk and talk and talk and talk until you collapsed. And guess what? People got tired of talking and tired of collapsing. Filibusters broke down and we were able to break the filibuster, get a quorum and vote. So I strongly support moving in that direction. In addition to having an open mind about dealing with certain things that are just elemental to the functioning of our democracy, like the right to vote, like the basic right to vote. We've amended the filibuster in the past. But here's the deal. As you observed, I'm a fairly practical guy. I want to get things done. I want to get them done consistent with what we promised the American people.
Oh my God.
And in order to do that, in a 50-50 Senate, we've got to get to the place where I get 50 votes so that the Vice President of the United States can break the tie, or I get 51 votes without her. And so I'm going to say something outrageous. I have never been particularly poor at calculating how to get things done in the United States Senate.
This is an outrage.
So the best way to get something done, if it holds near and dear to you that you like to be able to, anyway, we're going to get a lot done. And if we have to, if there's complete lockdown and chaos as a consequence of the filibuster, then we'll have to go beyond what I'm talking about.
Okay, so what you all witnessed right there was not only a word salad, but a mini filibuster where he was yammering and yapping around and didn't even really acknowledge the the damage that the filibuster is. Because again, the filibuster is a relic from Jim Crow. Okay? And you would think that Biden, even though he had the audacity to say he's been in politics for 120 years, something like
Haven't
that.
all of us at this point?
Yeah, haven't all of us. I think 2020 put like 100 years on all of us. But so maybe Biden's like, yeah, I'm 120.
He's actually fourth.
Yeah. So you know, but the issue is that he's what he has answered in regards to his stance on the filibuster is that he's not going to change a damn thing. And the audacity of him to saying that Kamala Harris will be that tie-breaking vote. You know, Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, and President Joe Biden actually do have a lot of power, but they choose not to use it. Case in point, let's look at how they handled the Senate parliamentarian. So expecting Joe Biden, President Joe Biden, or Vice President Kamala Harris to follow through with any of their policies or promises if there's a potential filibuster, who knows how they're going to vote or how they're going to decide. But Joe Biden doesn't want to get rid of the filibuster. That's what he should have said right then and there, and he got no pushback from the press. The press is not even asking him very serious questions about what's impacting working class citizens. And even when something as controversial as a filibuster is brought up, we get a word salad. We get nothing but dead air.
It's not even a word salad at this point. I mean, we're really hitting the bowl of alphabet soup territory.
Right. And again, I want to read the exact quote. When asked about the issue about the filibuster, Biden began, "I believe we should go back to what existed when I came to the Senate 120 years ago." Again,
back in the year 1900.
Yes, and again,
World War hadn't happened yet.
Yeah. So, and again, Biden said he supports reform, such as requiring opposition senators to actually deliver a marathon filibuster speeches to block action on the bill, and spoke of his desire and ability to get things done in the Senate. But then the mental wheels appear to have come off because, again, this outstanding article from RT America. Don't tell Rachel Maddow; she might crap her pants. But it's showing that Biden and whoever is guiding him have no idea what they're doing. And they're willing to continue to play and placate the vote blue no matter who crowd because, hey, guess what? He's not Trump. He's not the bad guy. But there's more to this. Let's pull up that next video. Shout out to Case Study QB. Again, be sure to follow him on Twitter. He's doing a lot of great stuff.
Our unofficial producer.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, damn it. It didn't have to be this way. Let's play that video.
And on a related note, have you decided whether you are going to run for re-election in 2024? You haven't set up a re-election campaign yet, as your predecessor had by this time.
My predecessor needed to. My predecessor. Oh, God, I miss him. No, the answer is yes. My plan is to run for re-election. That's my expectation.
And on a related...
That's the change.
Okay.
Remember when he was running? He's like, I'm only running one term. Now he's like, two.
Daniel, are you showing some signs of dementia? Don't say things that aren't based in fact. Hold on, but here's the thing. Yeah. That is a fact. Biden said during the primary that he was only going to run for one term. Can you imagine this man running for a second term? I mean,
can't imagine him walking through the first.
Yeah,
vote
blue no matter who crowd. There's your champion. We traded in one senile, crazy orange Cheeto for a senile old skinflint. That's what he is.
Man, I mean, AOC might call him privileged, but that's besides the
point. No. AOC said, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez said that the Democratic Party and Democratic leaders are now shifting to become more progressive because they're now more in touch, and now they're implementing policies
he's just
that are
a regular working class guy.
Yeah, he's he's regular old working Joe. That's why he's got to run for a second term, even though he doesn't know where he's at right now because he's stammering and stuttering all over the place. Look, just rewind back the clocks, and you'll see some videos on social media, on Twitter, on YouTube, showing Biden making some very offensive remarks towards voters, saying very offensive things, and more importantly, going off the rails. This is who the Democratic establishment wanted, and vote blue no matter who. There's your guy. He said nothing's going to fundamentally change, and he's going to make sure of that, especially if he chooses to run in 2024. Nothing will fundamentally change. Let's play another video. Again, shout out to Case Study QB. Be sure to follow him on Twitter. Let's pause it real quick and rewind it. All right.
We missed that really important first couple seconds of the question. He's not going to answer properly.
Regarding the filibuster, at John Lewis's funeral, President Barack Obama said he believed the filibuster was a relic of the Jim Crow era. Do you agree?
Yes.
If not, why not abolish it if it's a relic of the Jim Crow era?
I gotta think on this one.
Successful electoral politics is the art of the possible.
What?
Let's figure out how we can get this done and move in the direction of significantly changing the abuse of even the filibuster rule first. It's been abused from the time it came into being by an extreme way in the last 20 years. Let's deal with the abuse first.
It sounds like you're moving closer to eliminating the filibuster. Is that correct?
I answered your question.
Regarding
No, you didn't, buddy. No, you didn't.
This
Daniel,
is like
Daniel,
wait,
go
wait,
ahead.
wait. This is like I'm talking alphabet soup. He's talking word salad. This is when you mix both of them together. I don't even know what he said, and I was listening to the video. She asked a good question. I got to give it. That was a decent. That was a well laid question.
One of the
for
few,
Biden.
but again,
Yeah.
they don't push back.
Yeah.
That's the thing. The press might. She might have asked a good question, but they don't push back.
No, when she did it, he's like, I answered it.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
What did you even say? Could anyone in the chat tell me what he even said? He just was like, filibuster has been abused.
Doing politics is the impossible.
Yeah.
Impossible. This is somebody who, again, I have to really question his mental capabilities at this point. And this is starting to get embarrassing.
Yeah.
And never forget that Barack Obama said, Joe can still F this up, even if he does win. And the thing is, Democrats, you're walking into 2022 into a potential slaughter.
Can you imagine just like, here's a scenario that is more likely under Biden than Trump. Joe Biden was visiting the G20 and had to relieve himself, so he used a plant.
Oh no!
I mean, here's the thing.
No, that's being rude and.
Is it though? It's okay. Name another president that would apply to more.
I don't know. God, that would be so weird if Biden.
I'm not saying he's going to do it. I'm not even saying it's likely. I'm just saying if that was a headline, how many people would be like, "That's impossible. That must be fake," and how many people would go, "Let me check that out. Let me double check that."
Yeah, exactly, man. Well, again, hold on, but I think this can all
like
be
just like here's something you wouldn't expect from Joe Biden. Like if you woke up and saw a headline like Joe Biden chokes on orange spray paint, you would go, "That seems BS." But if you heard Trump did that, you would go, "Let me double check that."
Okay, but there's a couple things I want to bring up because we really have to talk about the president of the United States and maybe him showing some signs of dementia, because if he truly is struggling and stammering like that if you sit through that whole press conference, because there's some videos I had to rewind over and over again because it's just more than just those 3 videos.
Yeah.
There's a lot more stuff out there, and a lot of other independent media outlets have been covering it and have been talking about it. And it's for me, it's very frightening, because if Biden somehow is incapable of maintaining his presidency and Vice President Kamala Harris steps in, we are looking at a potential. And look, she would have to win the next 2 elections. She could be in office for 10 years, and I have a very serious problem with the vice president who didn't get any delegates, dropped out of the primary even before the first vote was casted. And somehow she is going to be holding that kind of position of power. All the while, the Democratic establishment is all good with Biden holding a terrible, god-awful press conference.
I mean, he's clearly someone that's very easy to manipulate in a different but similar way to Trump. It's just, again, it's got to be people behind the scenes running it. The guy doesn't. He's forgetting what he's saying in the middle of saying it.
Yeah, and he's making a lot of gas and is refusing to be corrected on it. This is somebody who, even during the primary, refused to listen to any of his advisors. And of course, the vote blue no matter who crowd will say, well, he still won the election. He still won the primary. No. We can't forget, very similar to like in 2016, similar to 2020, there was election fraud. Bernie Sanders, here's your good friend, Joe Biden, who's still holding on to the relic of the filibuster. And the corporate media, why the hell aren't you asking about Flint, Michigan? Why aren't you asking about the lead in Chicago's drinking water? Why aren't you asking about the fact that we have a crumbling infrastructure or how our climate change is systematically destroying our planet? Why aren't we having a conversation about ending regime change wars or ending the war on drugs? Why isn't anyone bringing the fact that there are detention centers that are being filled up with kids that are still south of the border? Those cages were built under Barack Obama's presidency. No one's having this conversation about student debt forgiveness or medical debt forgiveness. No one is having a conversation that we are the richest country in the world, but yet we cannot even follow through with a promise of wage increase, which is something Biden ran on apparently, or the promise of a $2,000 stimulus check. And I don't want to hear that crap that 600 plus 1,400 equals 2,000, because that's not mathematics here, folks. The American people are struggling, and if the Democratic Party wants to get destroyed in 2022, well, then go right ahead. They've already convinced me that I don't have a seat at the table. They've already told me that they don't want my vote. So then so be it. I won't vote for Republican. I'll vote third party. Because at least I want to vote with a clear conscience. And I'm tired of hearing this saying that, oh, if you vote third party, you're just helping out the opposition. No. The Republican Party and Democratic Party have convinced me that they don't work for me. And the very fact that they are still allowed this kind of situation to happen, that they're okay with this, says a lot about what their priorities are. They don't give a crap about any of us. And I think this tweet from Jimmy Dore, Chicago's very own, sums it all up. Let's pull up this tweet right here. Can we zoom in on it just a little bit? Jimmy Dore in regards to the press. So far, 0 questions on the $2,000 stimulus check lie, $15 minimum wage lie, foreclosures, evictions, because 30 to 40 million Americans are at risk of being evicted from their homes. American corporate news media, F yeah. If you're not angry, then you should be. Everyone should be furious. This was a national embarrassment. The man was stuttering and stammering all over the place, and corporate media was there smiling because they don't know what to do. They're not allowed to challenge power. They're just there to ask questions, and they might ask some good questions, but they'll never follow through. They'll just sit there and take it while the rest of us are out there struggling. Daniel.
I don't really have much to add to that. I think that's exactly where we're at. We're not in a good position. We have a president who seemingly more and more doesn't seem to really be able to communicate, and it's an issue.
All right, with that being said, we're going to move on now to our next segment. Before we do, I think we got a few YouTube super chats. FaZe, can you read them real quick? I think they're both from Roger Meadows.
Yeah, Roger Meadows says Ryan Grimm, AOC, GO2 Guy Dore was talking about.
Yeah, I know they had Ryan Grimm, but now it's very much, for at least AOC's story that Kid'll do on Rockfin, it's very much DSA interviewing their hero, their biggest,
idol,
their biggest person they put up, and it's very much not even really, it doesn't seem to be DSA that's asking as much as a Democratic operative who is.
Yeah, exactly. We got another YouTube super chat from Roger Meadows.
Did he actually say when I came to Senate 120 years ago?
Yes, he did. Roger, you'll be able to watch the videos. They're all out there, folks.
And it's what's weird about 120 years ago is, okay, if he's mistakenly talking about the filibuster, that's not 120 years ago. If he's talking about when he got in, that's not 20 years ago. Been in government way longer. If he's talking about the start of the last century, okay. But I don't know where he, like, did he mean 20? Did he mean 100? Like, I don't know what he could have even pulled that from. Like, it's not even like if I screw up on a number, it's like, oh, Daniel put these two numbers together. How silly. But I see he put two numbers together. One was right, one was wrong. I have no idea where 120 comes from.
Yeah, he's starting to lose his marbles. Chet's mom 4 says 2022 AOC will have a short bob haircut and will go full frontal Pelosi bot. She already is at this point. AOC. I mean, that's she's now Baby Bear. Nancy's Mama Bear, and AOC is now Baby Bear. So there we go. I think that's something that we all need to take into account. And again, we are live streaming on our Rockfin channel. So if you want to support us there, check us out on Rockfin.
And real quick, I'm going to answer a question from Ware Pilgrim. How much does it cost to join DSA? More than it costs to join our Patreon.
DSA, you know, I mean, I'll never forget when we covered their convention. in 2018 here in Chicago. It's just like, you know, I never really imagined them just, you know, going to bat for someone that hard.
Well, they have, you know, they have their investments. She's a key to them. She's their biggest thing. They can't. She's very popular to a lot of people. They're not gonna. And I know I'm making excuses for them, but from an internal point of view, she's their champion, and they can't just say she's terrible. So I sort of have some understanding, but it's not right.
Yeah, the Democrats.
I can have empathy for people I disagree with.
Yeah,
that's what I do.
Again, never hero worship politicians, folks. Don't do it. Don't do it. Just don't do it. All right. With that being said, Daniel, you got a story for the people. Yeah. What is going on, buddy? Okay,
I have a story that comes also about Joe Biden. Comes from our good friend Case Study
QB.
Yeah, he is a quarterback. So this one is about a change of the Afghanistan war protocol. What do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at the video.
Had a history of being a skeptic on Afghanistan and Afghanistan's leaders. Yesterday, he suggested he did want to remove all the troops out of Afghanistan. Not something that I support, but something that a lot of people on the left and the far right do support.
Yeah, and this was an overlooked big moment yesterday, Joe, and I'm glad we're talking about it. He said that the U.S. would not meet the May 1st deadline that President Trump had set to remove all troops from Afghanistan, but he said that it wouldn't be so much longer after that. And this is a big deal. Biden, of course, was tasked with Afghanistan and Iraq. That was part of his portfolio as vice president. He was the chairman of the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. This is, we know how personal issues of veterans are to him. His son, Beau, of course, was a veteran. And this is indeed a significant and a shift. And when asked, he didn't give a firm date, but he said it would be hard to imagine American troops still being in Afghanistan once the calendar turned to 2022. And certainly there'll be debate on both sides about the wisdom of that decision, but it's a significant one and changes and draws to a close 2 decades worth of American foreign policy.
So there you have it. So Trump had organized a withdrawal date in May, which was obviously intended to screw with whoever came after him. Biden, but it was a withdrawal date, something for a war that we've been in for 20 years that we're not going to win. The same reason we couldn't win the Vietnam War, the same reason the British could not beat Washington. People, they just wouldn't surrender. They're not going to surrender. Taliban is well organized in that sense. They're going to survive. They're going to keep surviving. And all we're doing is spending blood and treasure that we could be spending in America. Maybe not the blood part of it, but we could be doing that. Instead, we're still going to be in Afghanistan. Now, Biden said, look, we're going to get them out. I can't think of a reason why it would take till 2022. Well, that's always how they talk about it until something happens. Oh, no, there was a car bomb went off somewhere in the country, in Afghanistan. Guess we got to stay another year. Sorry, guys. They're just pushing it back. They're pushing it back after the previous administration pushed it back after the previous administration pushed it back. We're going to be in Afghanistan.
Yeah. And I really am insulted by the fact that, again, they bring up the fact of Biden and his son and how this is personal to him. If this is personal to him, we cannot forget that this was the same Joe Biden as a senator who voted for the damn war in Iraq. This is the same Joe Biden who has continued to implement the policies of the war on terror from the previous Bush administration when he was Obama's vice president. And since then, all this has been carried on. Obama and Joe Biden could have stopped this. They could have ended the occupation in Afghanistan and Iraq. But what did President Barack Obama do? What did Vice President Joe Biden do at the time when Obama was president? They led us to 2 wars to 7. We're going to still be in Afghanistan in 2022. And Trump, while he is all these horrible things, at least he had a date. Would he have followed through if he got reelected during this previous election cycle? That's a big question mark. I would like to think that maybe yes. But knowing how we are stuck in a neoliberal, neoconservative system, we're going to be in these forever wars. Because if we leave one theater, we're going to still be in 6 other combat theaters as well.
I want to quote Lawrence Johnson on this. I think this is a great question at this point in time. Should we be talking about statehood for Afghanistan since we've had control of them for so long?
20 years. 20 years in
You
Afghanistan.
got to watch.
Yeah. Watching Afghanistan. It didn't have to be this way. And future generations will look at us and wonder, how come we wasted all this treasury? How come we wasted all these resources when we could have had affordable education? We could have had investment into our infrastructure. War is a drain, and we are stuck in it for 20 years. How many more years left are we going to be in Afghanistan? 5 more years? 10 more years? It's one big question mark, but I do know this. All the lives lost, these were lives lost in vain. And Biden and his administration should follow through with the promise of removing us from Afghanistan and Iraq immediately, as well as in all the other theaters as well. But seeing as how we have a corrupt neoliberal system where money is speech and corporations are people, the military-industrial complex will have its way and will have the final say. It didn't have to be this way. With that being said, we are going to move on now to our next segment. Before we do, I just want to again acknowledge everyone that we are live on our Rockfin channel as well. So we're now live streaming on 2 sources. We will be live streaming soon on Odyssey when they have that set up as well.
And we're going to be opening up the Twitch as well, because why not?
Yeah, why not? We'll be also on Twitch. So yeah, Hard Lens Media is going places, and we invite all of you, our viewers and subscribers, to join us on this journey. And be sure you can check out all our links, our Odyssey link, our Rockfin link, our Twitter link, our Discord link. They're all in the show notes in the description box below, or there's links there in the description box. So just check it out, and yeah, it's pretty good. All right,
we're trying to evolve, and thank you guys for helping lead us.
That's right. We owe it all to you, our viewers and subscribers. And so with that being said, let's move on now to our next segment. Big tech CEOs are on Capitol Hill. So let's play this first video. Again, this is a link from RT America. Again, shh, don't tell Rachel Maddow.
I want to start.
She might crap her pants. Let's go ahead and play that first video.
I want to start by asking all 3 of you if your platform bears some responsibility for disseminating disinformation related to the election and the Stop the Steal movement that led to the attack on the Capitol. Just a yes or no answer. Mr. Zuckerberg.
Chairman, I think our responsibility is to build systems that can help.
Mr. Zuckerberg, I just want a yes or no answer, okay? Yes or no? Do you bear some responsibility for what happened?
Congressman, our responsibility is to make sure that we build effective systems to help fight the spread of this.
Is not to answer the question. Mr. Pichai, yes or no?
We always feel a deep sense of responsibility, but I think we worked hard. This election effort was one of our most substantive efforts.
Is that a yes or a no?
Congressman, it's a complex question.
Okay, we'll move on. Mr. Dorsey.
Yes, but you also have to take into consideration a broader ecosystem. It's not just about the technology platforms we use.
Okay, so that was Zuckerberg, Piachi, and Dorsey. Again, the Zuck is in charge of good old Facebook. Dorsey, Twitter. Piachi is in charge of Google's parent company, Alphabet. So, you know, it's very interesting seeing all those individuals up there. And basically, the Democrats are, you know, really wanting to ask them, well, who's in charge of the disinformation and all this fake news that we're seeing on social media, and what they're doing to make sure things are all set up and secure. So Congress has not enacted any legislation, this is from the article, to regulate these companies since it began regularly summoning the Silicon Valley giants to Washington during the Trump years. And these hearings have often done little but generate base-pleasing partisan sound bites. Both parties had their share of political gripes with the CEOs ahead of Thursday's House Energy and Commerce Committee hearing. But the session also came amid the growing possibility that these tech giants may soon face government regulation. So the focus of Thursday's hearing, however, was disinformation, and the Democrats in charge of the committee wasted little time in accusing all three executives of allowing conspiracy theories and anti-establishment narratives to spread on their platforms. Democrats focused their arguments around the Capitol Hill riots of January 6th, and some blamed the platforms for allowing users to post content doubting the results of the 2020 election and pro-Trump QAnon theories, as well as anti-vaccine content and posts from COVID deniers. And again, look, there's only so much that people can do to really control another person's opinion. You know, I can have an opinion, Daniel can have an opinion, but what worries me is that this is going to open the gates for more censorship and more people being deplatformed. When Donald Trump was removed from Twitter, that opened the floodgates for so much terribleness to happen. Take for example the fact that, number one, you have so many content creators right now at risk of being deplatformed, demonetized, shadow banned on YouTube.
See,
Right,
here's the thing that this is, people are saying, I think very well, that this is just not a good question to ask to really get to the heart of the matter.
Yeah.
Because they're going to answer, you need a very specific question. Okay, here's I'm going to go actually take a version of what E. Heller put out there. If you have someone on your platform who is spreading conspiracy theories, is it different if you are not really moderating besides the legal minimum, or if you are actively organizing, such as what YouTube does, the rankings of these people? So, yeah, so effectively, when we talked about before, a huge thing that really caused a lot of these echo chambers on Facebook specifically, which is the one I'm most familiar with, is that they grouped everyone together into like-minded groups. So, the liberals go here, socialists go here, the Republicans go here, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. That made it easier for Facebook to sell advertising to advertisers. That's a way of grouping people together. They are grouped together in like-minded pods. That's why your Facebook feed has a lot of very similar thinking people than you most of the time. And that leads to these people having these thoughts that allows these conspiracy theories to bounce around in that echo chamber much more effectively. And then conspiracy theories run amok more. A question that's sort of based in that sort of an idea of tying the activity and the reach and the power and the control that's used by these social media companies perhaps would do a lot better than just saying a generalized question with a yes or no answer, knowing they're not going to answer in a yes or no fashion. But these people, for the most part, don't know what they're talking about because they don't even have a cell phone themselves.
Yeah.
So
I also want to point this out too. Look, I'm concerned that Congress is asking Facebook, Twitter, Google, and all these other large tech giants, all these large social media platforms, to be publishers now. Because the thing is, look, I have said this on the show. I am for free speech, which means I don't want to see any kind of libertarian content, Republican content, Democrat content, socialist content, communist content, green content, independent content to be taken down. I believe that ideas need to be shared and people need to speak out. I don't believe in echo chambers. I don't believe in safe spaces. I think they're a waste of time. But it looks like we're on this pathway of creating echo chambers. And YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and all these other platforms are private companies. But the minute they start deplatforming and censoring people, they're acting like publishers then. And by doing that, it will be a death blow to independent media, to all your favorite content creators, not just here in Hard Lens Media, not just other independent media outlets, but other genres, other content creators will also be put on that chopping block. Because who's to say that at the end of the day, the average person who chooses to do something on social media, they're at risk of being censored and silenced more so than the large companies that are now starting to worm their way into our backyard. It wasn't too long ago where you had late night comedians or corporate media laughing and mocking at content creators on YouTube or Twitter or on Instagram. And now they've moved in and they're completely protected. They're completely safe from spewing misinformation. And corporate media has done this in the past. But yet we see nothing from Facebook or Twitter unless it goes up against the neoliberal narrative. Case in point, we cannot forget two articles that should always be remembered. Number one, the article of the New York Post sharing that Hunter Biden story, right? And again, anyone that was sharing it on Twitter or Facebook, that article was hidden. And again, the New York Post is a large media outlet. So even these large media outlets got to be careful now. But on the other hand, too, let's not forget articles from the gray zone that were silenced, that were completely shut off, or anything from RT America as they're deemed as a warning. And even Case Study QB, who uploads content and clips from corporate media, his Twitter account is deemed, well, you got to agree to view this content.
Yeah.
There's nothing controversial on his page. It's not an OnlyFans Twitter account. It's about corporate news. Is corporate news now offensive if somebody else shares it, if they're not with corporate media? So this is the danger of censorship. And when Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram start acting like publishers, we got to have free speech, and we have to look at other alternatives. Case in point for Rockfin, case in point for Odyssey. This is a danger. Daniel.
Yeah, I just want to say two things. First, he's not Laney Peterson, for everyone that saw that. But right there, yeah. So the other thing about this is that we need to be very careful about where we're moving in this direction. I'm very worried about what Congress is going to do, how they're going to do it. There's a lot of lobbyists that are very much, paid by social media to do this. So I'm worried about what we're going to get out of this. I'm worried if we're going to have safe harbors in the same online. But it just seems like this is not going to end well for us, that we are watching people that don't know how social media works being answered by people that don't want to answer the question, who are going to be using lobbyists as input to just cancel more people, to stop more things. And I want to really bring up what I think is very important that does not get talked about at all. The reason that conspiracy theories run amok is because no one trusts mainstream media. It's that simple. It's always that simple. If there's trust in media, people will not go into find enclaves of people that have a different point of view. I mean, they exist, but it wouldn't be widespread. The only reason that any of this is happening is that no one trusts the failing media networks. If they just got their act together, stopped being propagandist locations for people to do whatever they want, and people took them seriously. You know, an era that didn't have a lot of conspiracy theorists, that didn't have a lot of airtime? Walter Cronkite's era. Whether you agree or disagree, he was well trusted, and people trusted him to tell the news. That's not the case today. That's not how this works today. So this is a vacuum that is being filled. That's all it is. It's just physics. And they're acting like, well, why are these people invasively? No, it's because of your failure. It's because people don't believe in the government. It's because people don't believe in anything because it keeps failing them. And so then they look for alternate sources. And sometimes they find great sources that do tell the news. Other times, it's conspiracy theories. I don't blame them for going down a path when a more reasonable path has been blocked.
The fact that we are still in this situation right now should give everyone a heads up about what it means for the long run for content creators. Daniel, can you just remind all of our viewers and subscribers the favoritism that YouTube, just this point, YouTube, which is owned by Google, which is owned by Alphabet, the favoritism that they have for corporate media over independent media?
So last I checked, 75% of suggested news videos go to like 4 channels: ABC, NBC, CNN, Fox, and then a couple of the others that are there as well. CBS, it's a great example of how the channels should be growing. If you look at Rising, like I know a lot of people don't like, some people, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're under the aegis of a corporate outlet. So their views and their growth is not hindered by the algorithm. So every day they're able to keep growing their subscriber base, their view count base every single day. We're not afforded that. If you have taken a look at the growth rate of the subscriptions of independent left-wing media, it's basically halted. It's only really exists if you do a story that everyone's looking for and you're the first one to do it, or if you're doing collaborations. Organic growth is pretty much dead. If you want to find Hard Lens Media, you have to know about Hard Lens Media first. It used to be the other way around. And if you look at some of our growth earlier on, that's what happened. We did good coverage, and so therefore we were rewarded. We would do a video over here, it would get 20,000, 30,000 views a pop. That's not the case anymore. Now we're struggling to break 1,000.
Yeah, and it's a very real thing that's not only impacting independent media, but so many other content creators as well. It's going to start looking really scary pretty soon, and it looks like our political establishment is dead set on having social media censor those who will speak out. With that being said, we're going to move on now to our next segment. Before we do, again, be sure to subscribe to us on Odyssey. It's free to subscribe to us on Odyssey. Be sure to subscribe to us on Rockfin. We are working on live streaming on different other platforms as well. So we are live streaming here on our YouTube channel, and we are live streaming on our Rockfin channel as well.
We're diversifying away from YouTube at a rate we can help.
Yes, exactly. So there we go. I also want to give acknowledgement to someone in the Rockfin chat. Tcan says, I was called a conspiracy theorist when I was warning about vaccine passports more than 6 months ago. Wasn't a conspiracy. Wow.
That's the other thing in terms of conspiracies. They're all lumped. It's hard to... a conspiracy really is just more than two people conspiring to do something.
Yeah.
So even the definition, we need to find a better word to separate the two groups.
Yep.
It's like the main conspiracy, I think the most notable structure, at least, of a conspiracy theory that's false is a hierarchy of people spreading it to followers, sort of in like a church fashion, you know what I mean? Like a cult fashion, sort of. That's sort of a model, and then money is made off that. So like, with like Flat Earth, the number of people at the very top are making quite a bit of money, and everyone else is spending it. I think that's a really good what's the word I'm looking for? Like an Avon.
Oh, you mean a multi-level marketing
Yes,
plan.
yeah. It's something that when they're organized
Stay away from MLMs. Stay away from MLMs. Please stay away from MLMs. I said MLM, not M&Ms. M&Ms are delicious. MLMs are a nightmare.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, that we got to have some way to better describe these things. And here you go, Kit.
Oh, T-Can, thank you so much for the $2 Rockfin tip. We do appreciate a Rockfin tip here and there. Thank you so much. You will get different content on our Rockfin channel if you subscribe to us there. We want to make our Rockfin channel different than our YouTube channel. Odyssey, be sure to subscribe to us there. And again, we're working to diversify ourselves because the jackboot of YouTube censorship is very real. But with that being said, let's move on now to our next segment. Daniel, you got a very important story to share with the people. Yeah. What's going on?
Okay, so this actually might be one of the better stories we tell this week, and it'll make you feel good. It's actual change. It's an actual movement in a direction that's actually positive. So I want to let people know that New York has just canceled most qualified immunity for its police force in the entire city. It is the first city to accomplish this, along with a few other reforms. This is great. So a reminder for everyone, it'll get into the article as well. Qualified immunity is saying that you can't sue a police officer directly, amongst a couple other things. But let's just talk about this right now. So the city council approved Thursday a number of long-sought police reforms in New York City, along with several resolutions seeking further changes from Albany. Included among the approved bills was the prohibition of qualified immunity for police officers in New York City, the first American city to do so, according to the city council speaker, Corey Johnson. Among the police reform bills the city council approved included Intro 2212-A, sponsored by Bronx Councilwoman Vanessa Gibson, which clarifies the authority of the Civilian Complaint Review Board to investigate complaints of racial profiling and bias-based policing as submitted by members of the public. The legislation also empowers the CCRB to investigate the past professional conduct of any NYPD member found to have engaged in bias. 36 of the 39, this is a good ratio, city council members who voted in Thursday's session approved the bill, which with 12 opposing it and 1 voting to abstain. Another bill, Intro 2220-A, sponsored by Brooklyn Councilman Stephen Levin, ends qualified immunity for police officers, which Johnson said has been rooted in our nation's systemic racism. So this is a little details. Qualified immunity gives police officers exemptions from civil lawsuits, even if they violated a plaintiff's constitutional rights. If police are able to show that there is no past case dealing with the specific misconduct at issue, then they will generally be entitled to qualified immunity. So as an example of how this works, let's say there's a case before qualified immunity gets passed where it's like a cop stops a guy in a sedan and they pull him out of the sedan and they throw him into a ditch that has water in it. And when the guy struggles, they shoot him in the shoulder and he gets taken to a hospital after being handcuffed, and he then sues the police and wins for them, because he's like, it was a traffic ticket, If it happened again and the police do the same things, they pull a guy over in a sedan, they pull him out, there's a ditch, but the ditch doesn't have water in it. The police are like, it's a different case. It's not water in it. The previous case said there was water in the ditch. Can't sue us. And the courts will be like, okay, yeah, we can't sue you. There wasn't water in the ditch. And of course, because you can't get anyone that hasn't have a prior case, there's no possible way for case precedent to get built, except if that case gets brought all the way up to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court goes, yeah, that's unreasonable, which of course is a $1 million, 2-decade long process, which most people just don't have the means to do. So that's why qualified immunity is just a horrible, horrible, horrible monster. But we'll continue. The legislation passed in the city council effectively ends this for cases involving unreasonable searches and seizures and cases involving excessive force, whether it involved a search or seizure or otherwise. So that's why I said it's not fully eliminate qualified immunity, but in these cases, which are granted most of the umbrella that these happen under, it no longer applies, which means now cops, before they beat up a suspect, they might have to go, I might get sued for this. I might have to take some personal responsibility for my own self-interest so I can keep my house, which would be nice. The legislation passed with the support of 37 city council members, 11 against it. The third bill, 2224-A, sponsored by Queens Councilman Andre Adams, mandates that the NYPD issue a quarterly report on all vehicle stops that officers make. The department would also need to provide data on the number of summonses issued, arrests made, and vehicles seized. The document incidents involving search or use of force, which is like if you pull someone over, you got to make a record of it and have the demographics. And as they put it here, they also must break down the data by various demographics, including race, age, and ethnicity of drivers stopped. I forget which city it was that had just instituted that a few years ago. It might have been in Missouri somewhere. So you can probably tell me in the chat. And it showed very much that, it turns out poorest people and minorities were stopped the most by police. What a surprise. So we continue. The city council also approved 2 resolutions calling on the state legislature to approve legislation giving the CCRB final authority in discipline cases involving NYPD officers and for requiring newly hired NYPD officers to live within the 5 boroughs. Reasonable. Finally, the council also approved legislation supported by Manhattan Councilman Yadanis Rodriguez, who introduced 22-A, establishing a crash investigation analysis unit with the Department of Transportation. This will shift the liability for serious crash investigations away from the NYPD's collision investigation squad. So they're basically reallocating the crashes from the police to transit, which might help. Though the police will continue to conduct criminal investigations, the police reform plan that de Blasio presented and met, and the city council voted to support, however, did not meet the muster for the legal aid to say. So on top of all this happening, de Blasio, who I've been told by Hillary Clinton's doing a fine job, I'm sure, has been trying to throw his own police misconduct stuff in there. And to quote, what I'm about to quote, Mayor de Blasio had a genuine opportunity to implement urgently needed policing reforms. He failed to do that. Instead, produced a plan that at best glosses over the deeply rooted systemic problems within the NYPD that plague New Yorkers we serve, said Tina Luongo, attorney in charge of the criminal defense practice at the Legal Aid Society. We need to move beyond this failed process, listen to the demands of impacted communities for investment and in the non-police resource for improving public safety, and acknowledge that true change cannot be built on reforms that entirely fail to address the underlying. So effectively, de Blasio threw in something useless, and all these other amendments basically fixed a lot of it. So in the end, the most important thing that happened is, for the most part in New York, police are now responsible for their actions.
I think it's long overdue. And, the one thing that has me worried is how I could see this trying to get overturned, or how the police want to return things back to their normal.
Yeah.
And I think it's very important that people keep on fighting it. But again, there's really no reforming the amount of corruption and brutality that's in the police force. Because again, this video is being shared on social media, has to deal with the LA helicopters, especially what's happening in Echo Park. There's been an update with that story where, a lot of protesters were arrested. They're now, they cleared out some of the homeless people that are in Echo Park, and there were helicopters overhead too. There was a radio transmission between them talking about, lighting up poor communities. It's quite disgusting to hear. You could see it. It's available on Twitter. They're there, and it's just there's no fixing this. It's impossible to reform it. We got to start all over again. Hit the reset button and try and at least create something that's going to help protect citizens and not abuse them, because that's the only thing that I'm really concerned about, is that how this can get overturned. I'm glad that there's police accountability, but I'm willing to bet that there's going to be a lobby group that's going to try and reverse that policy.
Let's see what happens. We'll keep you guys posted.
Let's see what happens. So with that being said, we're going to move on now to our next story. Before we do, we got 2 YouTube Super Chats from Roger Meadows. I do apologize. We didn't get those early on. FaZe, can you tell us what he said to us?
Dan, did you know Joe is pushing it? Congressperson Danny Davis, H.R. 6422, National Infrastructure Bank, a.k.a. a U.S. public bank.
Danny Davis.
Yeah, I didn't know.
All right. Let's. Also, there was another one.
Time for that class action lawsuit. Easy to prove injury.
Yeah. Exactly it. Also, I want to acknowledge our viewers in Rockfin. We have 18 people watching us on Rockfin. Fred Edward said, finally, I get to watch Rockfin more. So there we go. Shout out to Fred Edward. Shout out to all of our wonderful moderators who are helping us moderate our live stream chats. Again, be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. It really helps us out with our YouTube algorithm. And again, also, Hardlands Media is live every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time on our YouTube channel, and now on our Rockfin channel as well. So let's move on now to the great fight that's happening with Amazon and the union and the people there that are fighting for their rights there. We have 4 videos from Case Study QB. I want to play them all in their entirety, and at least here, I'm willing to give corporate media some leeway. They're having a conversation about why there's a lack of opportunities for working class citizens in this country. Let's play that first video.
Strategy here from Amazon. Sarcasm and taunting by a top executive when there is just so much at stake for them, and they're already on the wrong side of lawmakers in Congress.
I do not think this is a winning strategy for Amazon at all. They're playing by Twitter rules, appealing to people on Twitter. And I do not think that is the core constituency here. And I think they're losing this battle hard. And whether they lose it in Alabama, I don't know. But I think it is just a matter of time before unions become a bigger deal, not just in Amazon, but throughout the tech sector. Because I think the issue is less about compensation than it is about onerous work rules that really dehumanize the people who work in these large warehouses, particularly during the rush seasons around holidays and various other gifting moments. And so I think that if I were Amazon, I'd be looking for a different communication strategy.
Casey, here's my unpopular opinion / observation, maybe more of an observation. Warehouse jobs in general are hard. Right? I mean, a lot of times from where we sit, sometimes, in the East Coast, in these cities, we don't like to think about that, but they are hard. And if the conditions at Amazon warehouses were as bad as some of the Democrats are trying to paint them, this union vote wouldn't even be an issue. Everybody would vote to organize. Then I also look online, I look at Indeed, and I look at the worker rankings of the job from Amazon workers, warehouse workers, 3.6 out of 5. Walmart workers, 3.5 out of 5. It's actually lower, and we're talking tens of thousands of reviews on each. Costco's pretty high, 4.1 out of 5, but Walgreens, 3.6 out of 5, the same as Amazon. Now square that for me. If Amazon is that bad compared to everybody else with tens of thousands of reviews, why are we seeing those rankings?
You know, it's a good question. I think what we've seen from the reporting on the ground is that the situation in Bessemer, Alabama actually is pretty divided, and there are some workers there who are really...
Okay, real quick before, because I know we want to give our commentary on this, but I want to acknowledge something that must be addressed. I worked at a warehouse. I worked at Costco. There's a big fundamental difference between Amazon warehouse and Costco warehouse, and that is we have more benefits and more protections. That's a real truth about the difference between an Amazon worker working at the warehouse and a Costco worker. When I was struck with pneumonia, my employers told me to go home because I was sick. I didn't know I had pneumonia at the time, but thankfully I had medical benefits and I was able to be taken care of, and I had that addressed and fixed. And then when I had a relative that was severely injured that I had to take care of them, guess what? I was actually able to take some time off from work, and able to help my family out, get my relative back in shape so that they can, continue living their lives. Amazon doesn't offer that to its workers. Amazon has its workers pee in bottles. Amazon has its truck drivers wearing adult diapers so they make less stops. Amazon is having its workers work in crowded facilities. All the while, all of them are being exposed to COVID-19. And Amazon has some of its own employees conducting the COVID-19 tests, even though they are not medically trained to do so.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that's happening. And the thing is, reading a review on Indeed, okay, that's fine, buddy, that you are, but I wouldn't cite that as a complete source. Maybe you should be looking at other research materials besides Indeed. Let's play that next video.
Amazon would just sort of, pull up stakes and get out of town if the union were successful. So it's not a sure thing that it's going to pass. But I also think that, you don't have to have the worst job in the world to want a union, right? Like, economic precarity is a defining feature of life for too many Americans. And if you're working in a low or medium skill job and you're looking at the coming wave of automation that's about to transform every workplace, there are a lot of reasons why you might want to be able to bargain collectively. So, all the reporting I've read on the ground in Amazon or on Amazon suggests that a union is something that these workers probably want to have to protect themselves.
And maybe they do, Roger. I'm not really trying to argue for that one way or the other, but I'm old enough to remember a decade or so ago when Walmart was the boogeyman. It seems like there's a new one, and maybe that distracts from the underlying issues about pay, about benefits, about worker education and advancement that perhaps are needed across the economy, not just within one particular company.
John, that's a fair point, but I would also note that in many of the communities where these warehouses are based, the warehouse is by far the largest employer. So that it's not like people have options. And I really strongly agree with Casey's point here that in this country where we tie health insurance to employment and where we give all the power to the employers to misclassify workers as contractors when in fact they really should be employees in order not to give them health care, you have a very little safety net in these communities. And so it is legitimate for a worker to vote against a union out of fear that they will lose their job or out of fear that the warehouse will be moved. And that fear is the problem. So I really strongly endorse what Casey just said about why it's in the interest of these workers to have some level of protection and why I think the government is likely to treat workers across the entire economy with more respect going forward than has been the case over the last 30 or 40 years.
Roger, you make a good point in tying this in with all the conversations and regulation around gig workers, but I'm curious whether this issue, which is about Amazon and warehouse workers, really speaks to larger questions.
All right, let's play that. Let's pull up a next video again with
So far, I'm actually not unhappy with this conversation. I mean, it's not the best conversation,
no, it's not.
but it's a conversation.
It's something that I think a lot of people need to hear about, just the current state of our economy and our country right now.
I'm just gonna say, congratulations, TV news. You did something.
Yeah, let's go ahead and play this next video.
Of more than one. And if that's the case, we really need to rethink how the economy is structured. And a big part of what Biden has done with the American Recovery Act is to acknowledge that with a temporary move to try to help all the people harmed by it. And I just believe that we're going to have to get accustomed as investors to a slightly different balance of the benefits of the economy, because the pandemic just showed that the other balance just leaves way too many people in a catastrophic situation, people that we desperately need in order for the rest of the economy to operate.
Mm-hmm. We will soon see how that dynamic continues to play out. Ballots start to be counted on March 30th at that Alabama Amazon warehouse. Thank you guys so much, Casey and Roger.
Of more than one.
Okay, so look, I'm glad that we were able to really hear this conversation play out and really talk about the economic situation that's impacting a lot of people all across the country. Look, there was a point, Daniel, you bring this up, that the United States used to build things. We used to make things. We had communities that were built around warehouse facilities, industry. And the thing is, ever since NAFTA, ever since these big trade agreements that we're doing worldwide, a lot of these plants and facilities have been shut down. And this has been a huge death blow to a lot of communities. It's just not, these small communities, but there's also large cities that are dealing with this too, where Amazon is the only place, the only option for a lot of people to work at. And the thing is, Amazon has been able to capitalize on this fact that there's a lack of opportunities. And so a lot of people are afraid to speak out. A lot of people are afraid to step up. And the thing is, we have politicians that haven't been fighting for our rights for quite some time. If you compare the United States policies towards workers towards other countries like in Germany or in Britain or in Canada, it's like almost night and day. And I'm not saying that those countries are perfect, but workers' rights are more respected, more so than here in the United States. And look, I want to just bring up Costco. Costco is probably one of the few companies that actually at least gives its workers benefits. They're giving their workers a $16 wage increase. $16. It's above the $15 minimum wage increase, but they're doing it. They give them medical care, dental care, a 401k, a few other things here too. But I mean, there was a point where workers were taken care of in this country, where again, if you treat your workers right, they're going to work hard for you. But now, ever since then, we've had companies and corporations constantly squash us, push us down, and walk over us, all the while our politicians are accepting bribes from these corporations. So it's a long overdue that we talk about unions, that we talk about co-ops, that we actually build something so that people aren't working until they're 90 years old. I mean, let's bring up Walmart. When you see these senior citizens in their 80s and 90s being Walmart greeters, really? Work until you're dead? Everyone's biggest regret in life, especially when they're dying here in the United States, I wish I didn't work so much. I wish I didn't work as hard. I wish I could have enjoyed life. That's the thing a lot of Americans are saying now. And because of the lack of opportunities, we also have this growing opioid crisis too, where again, it's hurting us and we're getting nothing in return. All of us right now are struggling day in, day out. In this pandemic, the corporations got more money. Jeff Bezos became richer and he profited off of our pain. All the while, we had corporate media praising workers like Amazon or retail workers, saying that they're essential, and then how quick and easily they forgot. Daniel, what's the final word?
Yeah, this is the standard that we're in with the U.S. that we're even fighting to get. We have states where you don't have to pay to be in unions, and I'm still at the point where I think that we really should be moving to co-ops, but you really can't co-op with something like Amazon, so a union, of course, makes more sense. Because Kit's right. It's like, sure, they're paying them above the minimum wage of $15 an hour, but warehouse workers in the past have made $25 an hour. I know their average is much higher than what Amazon's being paid. Yeah, and I don't think you should be rewarded for knocking out all the competition in the town and then saying, well, now we pay the most of anyone else because there's no one else to pay. I want to remind everyone, Amazon has put out of business thousands and thousands and thousands I wonder what the ratio is for every Amazon worker working for $15 in a sorting facility. How many 10s or 20s of business owners are out of a job? That's a thing that doesn't get talked about. And by the way, when you make companies smaller in that sense, the average pay is higher. Like, I know that they're always like, oh man, if we raise the minimum wage, small businesses would go out of business. When small businesses usually pay above minimum wage far more than large corporations do. So it's all a thing. If you're paying, so it's a failure, and it's where we're at.
Exactly. I think as a final word for this story, again, the workers in Alabama, but also Amazon workers across this country should be working together to unionize and make this happen. And we need to push forward and actually keep on building something here in this country. With that being said, we're going to move on now to our next
really
segment.
quick
Before we
before
do,
we
yeah, I know. I saw that from Ayana.
So, Faze, there might be a point that it's sending it to the other account, and we might not see it pop up on this one. So we may have to log in to the actual. You know what? Get your stories, or it's my story next.
Yes, it's it.
Okay, so Ayana, we're gonna get to it right as we get to the end. Let me finish this last story, and we'll figure it out.
Yep. Cool.
All
right, Daniel, what's going on, buddy?
Okay, and then that this might mean that we have to migrate. We'll figure it out. But
all right, we're working on a lot of things here, folks.
Yes, this is the work. Oh yeah, well, give me a minute. So, so this is something that just happened recently. Actually, so Georgia Governor Brian Kemp on Thursday signed into law a sweeping Republican-sponsored overhaul of the state elections that includes new restrictions on voting by mail and gives the legislature greater control over how elections are run. Among other things, the law requires a photo ID in order to vote absentee by mail. After more than 1.3 million Georgia voters used the option during COVID-19 pandemic. It also cuts the time people have to request an absentee ballot and limits where drop boxes can be placed and where they can be accessed. Democrats and voting rights groups say the law will disproportionately disenfranchise voters of color. This part of a wave of GOP-based backed elections introducing in states around the nation after President Trump stoked false claims that fraud led his 2020 election defeat. The bill, SB 202, passed the state house 100 to 75 earlier Thursday before the state Senate quickly agreed to House changes 34 to 20. Republicans in the legislature were in support while Democrats were opposed. Kemp delivered remarks on the bill during a live stream and was interrupted by Georgia State Representative Park Cannon. Cannon, who was among a group of protesters, knocked on Kemp's door and was subsequently arrested by police, as you do in a democratic country. She has been charged with felony obstruction of law enforcement and preventing or disrupting General Assembly sessions or other meetings of members, a misdemeanor. She was later released. We actually have a video of that.
Yeah, we do have a video, so let's go ahead and pull up that tweet that we have in the show notes. Again, everyone that's watching, you can find all the links and all the articles to our show on the live stream here in the show notes. So if you're watching this clipped, we just go to our live stream. You'll find the show notes with all the links to the articles and videos that we use for our show. Let's go ahead and play it. This will be difficult to watch.
Why are y'all arresting her? Why are you arresting her? Can you cite the code? Why are y'all arresting her? Stop suppressing the vote. Why are y'all arresting her? What did she do?
This is a lawmaker, by the way.
What did she do? Can y'all cite the code? What did she do?
Where are you taking me?
What did she do?
Stop. Where are you taking me?
What did she do? What did she do? What did she do?
She's part of the Georgia legislature.
What did she do? What did she do? What did she do? What did she do? Excuse me, what did she do? 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 What did she do?
That will affect all Georgians, and you are choosing to
Why is she getting arrested?
an elected official.
You are choosing. Why are y'all arresting her? Why are y'all arresting her? What did she do? What did she do?
Fake the statute.
What did she
Fake
do?
the statute that you arrested.
Y'all need to be arresting Governor Kemp.
Let me say something. We sit here every single day and we defend these bad bills, like SB 202. And all we asked is for her to be able to see them sign a bill that is signing our rights away. And you arrested her. She did not touch anybody. She did not say any slanderous words to any of these standards. But you're going to tell me that you arrested a sitting state representative for nothing. She didn't do anything but knock on the governor's door. I'm done. I'm so done. I'm so done. Protect and serve who? Protect and serve who? Protect and serve the Georgians. Because she knocked on the door. You just arrested a state representative. I'm done.
She was elected to serve the people of Georgia, the same as Governor Kemp.
You think this is...
So that was difficult to watch, and
I bet those cops were like, "Man, I really miss Jim Crow. I get to live it again just a little bit."
You know, another thing too I want to bring up is that if you compare this to what we saw on January 6th, where the cops let the rioters in, it's a fact. Look, and of course there were some areas where there was confrontation between the protesters. I mean, the
But
rioters.
police are
and the
they're
police,
supposed
but-
to deal with that, aren't they?
Yeah, but the thing is, a one little knock on the door, all of a sudden that's World War III. But hey, those rioters at the Capitol, they could do whatever
No,
they want, you know.
this is World War III. Signing away the rights of hundreds of thousands of your citizens, not an issue.
Not an issue, yeah. And an elected official, a legislature, was arrested. I think she has every right to find out what's in that bill, as should any legislature, be they in the House, Senate, be they a House representative, or be they at the federal level for the U.S. Senate or the U.S. House of Representatives. Everyone should know what's in the bill. And she had every right to read what was in it. And I doubt that a knock is truly an arrestable offense, but at least
A felony.
It's a felony. Yeah, that's right. It's a felony. A knock. There are some dark times ahead, and again, with this pathway of censorship, with this corrupt system that we have, it's quite clear that the people need to step up. Now, does this look like a general strike that needs to happen? Must there be a real political movement to happen in this country? I don't know what it's going to take to set it off, but our rights are constantly being denied. Our rights are being ignored. Our politicians only cater to the top 1%, and we only have a precious handful of elected officials that actually do care about us. Majority's, and the thing is, like, majority of the time, we're always let down by our politicians, but as soon as we see someone step up and do the right thing, they're almost silenced, they're kicked out of office, they're arrested, and this is not a healthy democracy that we have here. And if we're going to fight for that better future, we can't. It's one thing to have a politician fight for us, and for that, that's great. But at the end of the day, the ball is in our court. The people watching, you watching right now, there has to be a real political movement. But something's got to give to where all of us have got to step up. I'm tired of us being pushed around, and I'm tired of us being stepped on. And again, with independent media and the censorship that we're dealing with, we're all going to have to be really careful, especially when it comes down to fighting for that better future. But if we don't take action now, we're done for.
Yeah.
Daniel.
And as a final note, it's just I hope she sues or something. Not happy.
Exactly. All right. I want to acknowledge a YouTube super chat from Roger Meadows, $2. Workers to Amazon. This is a stick up. Hand over your. Love it. Thank you, Roger Meadows. Also, let's check and see if we can see that Streamlabs
Right.
super
It looks
chat.
like it may be because we've done a lot of stuff behind the scenes and then we may have forgotten to shift that over. So to Ayana and anyone else that sent us a Streamlab chat that we didn't get to read, we're gonna fix it over the weekend and then first thing on Monday we will read them.
Yes.
As I'm trying to figure out, I was like thinking, can we do this on air? And it would probably take us 10 or 15 minutes to figure out.
Yeah.
So I'd rather do it at the beginning of the show on Monday where more people will see it.
Yes, we do apologize. So if you did send us a Streamlabs super chat, we will acknowledge it Monday. We have a whole new setup. It's looking really great. FaZe is doing a fantastic job. And again, we are working on delivering more content to all of our viewers and subscribers. So with that being said, I want to give a huge shout out to all of our moderators who were helping us out. Shout out to Fred Edward, E. Heller, Gamer for Life, Ayana, Alexandria, Mona Carmona, who are our moderators. Shout out to our tech priest insider FaZe, who has actually now got us live streaming, not only on our YouTube channel, but now on our Rockfin channel. And be sure to check us, and as soon as Odyssey's set up for live streaming, we will be on Odyssey as well, too. Shout out to my co-host, Daniel Lupker. Shout out to all of our wonderful people who are watching us live. Also, I see on our Rockfin channel, we have about 18 people watching us live. That is so awesome. That is really good news. So again, we are live every Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. You could check us out on our YouTube channel and on our Rockfin channel as well. Be sure to subscribe to us on Odyssey. It is free to subscribe to us on Odyssey. Think about joining our Discord. Follow us on Twitter. If you want to help us out even further, please consider being a Patreon supporter. Check out our YouTube channel, Chicago Corner, that's hosted by Ali Alexandria. And also check out our fun channel, Chicago Reacts. My name is Kit Cabello, the host of Hardlens Media. Peace to you guys, and let us all do what we can to build a better future.
We'll see you on Patreon.
And have a safe weekend.